I don't know how much we dismiss how much our family structure impacts the rest of our lives. Everything that we see, everything that we view, the way we treat our future spouse, the way we treat the people around us, the way we see life itself is always impacted by the family. And that's the thing we don't want to talk about the most. We can blame everybody else. We can blame every other institution for this is how I was formed because of that. If it happened 300 years ago, so be it. But what about what happened at your home? If you didn't have a father, what does that impact make on you? And Keone deals with these kids every day. Mom does. Bria does. They all do. And so that's the one thing no one wants to talk about. Because they're all dealing with it themselves.
Right.
And they can't see it. And because we normalize it. Oh, it doesn't divorce? Who cares? Out of wedlock, what does it matter? My parents did it. His parent, who cares? They're still good people. Not the point. And so it's like, when are we going to wake up to that idea? That's why the church talks about nuclear family. Because that can disrupt your entire life at the age of 5 if you see trauma or whatever it is.
Keone?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. The thing that stood out to me, Dad, when you were talking about you can judge a tree by its fruits. And the problem that I have, when you talk about like the Black Lives Matter movement, is looking, like you said, looking at the effect of it. So what is Marxism? The basic premise is that anyone who has more than me, they got it because they took it from me. And that's the basic Marxist premise. And so it basically justifies vengeance, it justifies envy, and it disguises it as virtue, as taking what is rightfully ours. And so the problem that I have with a lot of our church leaders, a lot of Catholics who are catering to this movement, is that at the end of the day, they don't care if you are with us or not. At the end of the day, you have power too. You have something that I want. You have the biggest organization on planet Earth, the Catholic Church. I want you too. This is why they're going after Junipero Serra. This is why they're coming after Jesus now.
Yeah, Mary.
Yeah, and after the Black Madonna, right? Yeah. It doesn't end there. So when you cater to it, it makes you look stupid. Because they could care less about you because you're now that they got rid of these people and you helped me, thanks. But now you're next in line. And this is what the problem with, you got to look at the fruits. You got to look at what they're, like Meeks was saying, who did they follow? And following Karl Marx and dismantling the nuclear family has horrible effects. And like Meeks was saying, if there was a intact nuclear family, I have no doubt that the majority of my clients that I see for severe mental health issues would not be in my office. Because not only do you just dismantle the domestic church, which is the home, you dismantle their idea of God, you completely eradicate any true virtue, not virtue signaling, not whatever I think is virtue. It's true virtue that only comes from God, because he's the fullness of virtue. He is all things that is pure and good. And so when you take that out of the family, now there's no domestic church. And I told us in the last episode that this is beyond political. This isn't a political game. This is spiritual warfare. And the devil's goal, let alone Black Lives Matter, whatever organization, Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood, it doesn't matter. This is the devil's work because he wants to dismantle the nuclear family, because that is the root of society. That is the priest in the home who has the power to cast out the demons and protect the children, and the wife, right? To serve and protect, essentially. So it goes beyond this idea of just politics. So I think a lot of people want to cater to, we're even in the Catholic Church, when I see these Catholic influencers cater to the politics, and it's like, no, this is spiritual warfare, and you're giving into it. Because and like I said, look at the effects of it. So that's just a problem I have, and just thinking about the disruption of the family, the mental health, the trauma, the lack of morality. I was watching a video on the importance of marriage for men. Statistically speaking, married men make more money. They spend more time in a church or a community organization rather than spending time in bars. They grow up. At the end of the day, that's the reason why marriage is so good for men, because men are just so selfish. Women have a little different. Obviously, we're all selfish as human beings, but women obviously appreciate relationships more often than men do. Not saying this is always the case, but generally speaking. And men are often after their own self-interest. They're often materialistic. They like the money. They like the fame. And what happens when you have a wife and a kid now? No one cares about your aspirations. You have to care about your wife and your kid. You start to become a gift. You start to become a servant. which is what a true nuclear family is. The head of the household is the biggest servant, right? It says like you in Ephesians 5, you need to love like Christ loved his church and he died for his church. So the disruption of the nuclear family, people want to say that it's all loving, it's all caring, it's about tolerance and inclusivity. No. This is the devil's work. And it's just, it's that simple. It's really, there's no beating around the bush there. It's the devil's work. From a spiritual warfare perspective, from a mental health perspective, from an economic perspective. And it's about time people actually stand up as a Catholic Church and say, no, this is wrong. And this is why the church has defended the nuclear family for 2,000 years, and that we need to continue to defend it and use our platform to do so.